Hello, welcome to a new reading vlog. I said in my, oh hi, I'm Hannah by the way, if you're new here. I like to read books and talk about them. Much like lots of other people, I don't really have a USP except that I'm a bit forgetful, but even that, not really a USP. Anyway, stick around if you like. I said in a video earlier this month about my kind of reading intentions for the year that I wanted to vlog my reading of the Storygraph Read the World challenge. So I'm here to briefly introduce this video, badly, and say that I am about to pick up my first book for the challenge. So this is Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro. Claudia Piñeiro is an Argentinian author, and this is the book I am reading for Argentina, and it is translated from the Spanish by Francis Riddle. All I know about this is that it is told from the perspective of a woman whose daughter has just died, and everyone in her life thinks that her daughter was died by suicide. But Elena, the title character, doesn't believe that that is true, and it is, I think it's told over the course of a day, yeah, unfolding over a single day. It's about her trying to uncover what actually happened to her author, and the main character has, I think, Parkinson's disease, and apparently it's told in crypt time, so it's broken up by where she takes her various medications. And so, as well as it kind of being like a crime book, the structure is sort of also dictated by her energy levels and how able versus not able she is to do certain things at certain points in the day. And I know this was Jen Campbell's favourite book of the year? Last year? Or maybe the year before? When did this come out? But yeah, I really rate and respect Jen Campbell's recommendations. So yeah, I'm hoping to really like this. It's also only about 140 pages. It is currently the 29th of January. And I was hoping to read this in January, so I only have a couple of days to get through it. But I think it's going to be like a fast-paced, grippy read. I am about to, if I have time, film another quick video for LGBTQ+ History Month, which will probably be up on my channel by the time you're watching this, so I will link it down below. And I am then off for afternoon tea with my mother-in-law and cousin and her daughter. So I think I'm going to start this on the metro into town, and possibly the next thing you will see will be some B-roll of the Newcastle Tyne and Wear metro. God, I haven't filmed a video in a little while and I am rusty. Catch you in a bit. Bye.
Your attention, please.
about 11:30 on Sunday night. Did I mention that it was Sunday earlier? So it's a few hours later. Afternoon tea was cute, and I have read not very much, but about 30 pages of Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro, and I'm really, I don't even know if enjoying is the word. I'm liking it. It's very dense. So this is a book that I got from my friend Evie, who I think I've mentioned before on my channel, has like a box of books in her house, and if you go to her house, you can take a book out of it. And this is the one that I got, but she had said when I picked it up, she was like, it's really intense, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, like I can do intense, but it is, and it's very densely written. And as you'd expect, even though it's only 150 pages, it is only over the course of a day, so you are getting quite a lot of detail. But I think what Claudia Piñeiro is doing brilliantly so far is really building into how she tells the story, Elena's disability, because you are put inside her head as she is having to think about... Lewin's just jumped on the bed. One sec. Oh! He's such a saboteur. Yeah, as she is having to kind of deal with the everyday realities of having Parkinson's, including working out what train she needs to get based on when she's taken her medication and how long that medication takes to kick in, so that she's at her most mobile at the time when she needs to be able to move around the most. And it's really very powerful. She's not, so far anyway, a super likable character, which I also really like. And yeah, I don't have a huge amount to say. As I said, I've read 4 chapters. It's about 30 pages, which actually it's about a fifth of the book actually. But yeah, I'm really liking it so far. But I thought it was going to be quite a quick read, and I mean, I don't read books in order to just kind of like get through them, but I did think it would be a faster read than it is, because of how densely it's written, like because it's quite kind of stream of conscious style. There's really long paragraphs and things, but so far what we know narratively is that her daughter has died. Her daughter was found hanging in the belfry of a church, and everyone assumes that it was suicide, but Elena doesn't. And the reason Elena doesn't is that her daughter was terrified from being a child of lightning, and she would never go near the church when the weather was bad, because her dad had once said it's the greatest like lightning rod in the village, and ever since she was terrified of it. And I assume you don't know exactly how old Elena was and her daughter Rita, but I assume she was maybe in her 40s when she died. So we're not talking like a young person. This is a person who has spent decades avoiding going to the church, and if she had killed herself there, she would have had to go to the church in the rain, and Elena is just like, she just wouldn't. So Elena is embarking on this journey to go and see this person who she says is the one person who might be able to help her piece together, or might be willing to help her piece together what actually happened. But we don't know. We know the name of that person, but we don't know why. And I think probably that is all the detail of plot that I'll be able to give you. All of that you learn quite like quickly. None of that is a spoiler, but I suspect we're going to be getting into spoily territory now. So yeah, enjoying that. And I may read a little bit more as I finish my ridiculously fancy gin and tonic with strawberries and rose petals in it. Who the hell do I think I am? Hello. It is now Tuesday. I just got distracted by how much of an orange monster I look like right now. Sorry. Yeah, it's Tuesday night. So I was hoping to have had more of a reading update for you, given that I think I last spoke to you on Sunday night. And I have read some more of Elena Knows today, and I am still really enjoying it, but I'm only about 60 pages in. I have just finished the first part. So the book, I think I've mentioned before, is split into parts based on when Eleanor is, or Elena, it's probably Elena, isn't it? Elena. I'm probably going to use them interchangeably. It's split into parts based on when she takes her medication. So part 1 is when she takes her first pill, part 2 when she takes the second pills. And the book itself is only over 24 hours over the course of a day. And yeah, like I said, I'd hoped that I would have been able to read more, but just life has got in the way so far this week. I have a work thing coming up next week, which I am needing to do a fair bit of work-related reading for, which has eaten into quite a lot of my reading brain time. But anyway, let's chat this, because I am still liking it, although it is very dense and intense, as I think I said before. But it's really interesting. It's very, what I like about it is that Claudia Piñeiro is not romanticizing any part of it. We're getting through, because although it is present tense, and the functional narrative of the book is Eleanor going to try and work out what happened to her daughter over the course of this day, we also get kind of flashbacks and parts of her relationship with her daughter, and they didn't have a great relationship. Neither of them seem particularly likable. Her daughter seems to sort of be quite impatient about her mother's Parkinson's, and Eleanor has a very she doesn't idealize her child, and that is really interesting, especially from the perspective of a parent who has lost a child. So she is feeling this grief. She is absolutely grieving, but at the same time she is also not doing that thing of as soon as someone isn't with us anymore, all of a sudden we romanticize and idealize what they were like as a person, and that her daughter in her memory remains flawed. And I think that's really interesting. She's just been reflecting on not knowing what to call herself, because there's a word for a wife who loses her husband, widow. There's a word for a child who loses their parents, orphan, and there's not a word for a parent who loses a child. And because her daughter Rita was her only child, she's sort of questioning whether is she still a mother? Does she remain a mother even after her child is gone? And there was a great little scene where she's discussing some of those ideas with priest, and the priest begins these meetings. I think he's getting frustrated by what he perceives to be Eleanor's inability to accept what is quite clearly the truth. And you know, it's a Catholic community, and suicide is not permitted in the Bible. And so he thinks basically that she's just not able to accept that her daughter has sinned by taking her own life. And they have a really interesting conversation. Hi again. Technological fail. I can't remember what I was saying. I was telling you about the conversation with the priest. Yeah, it was... where were we? Oh, yes. So the priest is talking about how, you know, our bodies are not our own, they belong to God, and we only have the right to use our bodies. And Elena makes this kind of catty comment because she's not been able to use her body, God-given though it is, for a good number of years, thanks to the Parkinson's that she has. And I liked that. She's a very she's very gruff, but I like her, but she is not warm, and I think that's really refreshing to see, particularly for, I think, protagonists in literature who are disabled or suffer from chronic illnesses. I think there is a tendency to smooth over their flaws or uncomplicate them sometimes, in a way that I think is not helpful. And so I really like what this book is doing. There was a great scene earlier as well. I think I mentioned in the last clip on Sunday night about something that I think is really great about this book is just force. I mean, as someone who does not have a chronic illness, it forces you to think as much about Elena's body as she has to in order to navigate the world. And where it can feel sometimes like there was like a 5-page chapter that was essentially just Elena trying to get on a train and find a seat and sit down in that seat. And you're going, God, this is taking 4 pages, because it's the cognitive and physical toll of that on her weighs heavier than it does on me as a person who doesn't have those sorts of things to worry about. And I think that's really, really well done. And I know that there have been people who do have disabilities and chronic illnesses have spoken about this book as a good example of how to sort of write about it, but without glossing over or simplifying it. You know, this is not, or it doesn't feel like it is, Claudia Piñeiro, you know, giving a main character an illness to kind of make them more interesting or to move the narrative along. It is just purely there to kind of let me rephrase. How this book is written and structured and presents itself, everything that this book is indivisible from the fact that the protagonist has a disability. Do you know what I mean? It's not shoehorned in. It is the book. And I think, so far, I think it's really, really powerful. So I'm up to midday now, and I will carry on reading a little bit more this evening, but it is Newcastle Southampton tonight, so I may read, or I may be distracted by the football. But yeah, I will check in again with you soon, and maybe tomorrow morning on the dog walk I will take some nice video for you to have a little look at. So if I remember to do that, dog walk footage incoming. It's Friday night. You might think that would mean that I have a reading update for you. I do not. I have read no more of the book since I last spoke to you. I've got this work thing basically on Monday and Tuesday that has basically meant I've had to do a lot of... I'm sorry, I'm just holding you. I couldn't be bothered to sit on my tripod. So if you're a bit wibbly, that's why. So I've got this work thing that I've had to do a lot of educational non-fiction reading for, and it's just taken all my reading time, essentially. So once again, choosing to do a reading vlog has actively got in the way of me reading, but never mind. But I wanted to say hello briefly because we're about to go for a fancy meal. We got some money for Christmas, and there's a restaurant near us that's just been put in the Michelin guide, and it does vegan options, and fancy restaurants hardly ever do vegan options. So we are treating ourselves to a fancy tasting menu. So I will show you some of the food that we're eating in lieu of being able to tell you about the book that I'm reading. But what I am planning on doing is Saturday, tomorrow. I've got a few reading bits to do for work. I've got some recording that I need to do I need to film my wrap up, so that's going to happen tomorrow. But I really think I can have a chunk of reading time on this book tomorrow. And I'm planning on making some Argentinian food, and maybe doing a little separate video project for that. We'll see how much time I have, but for now, hopefully you are going to see some pictures of some fancy fucking food. Bye. Saturday morning, the food at Rebel was amazing. So good. I think sometimes when you go to fancy like restaurants, which we do not do often, but like I can feel a bit resentful sometimes because I feel like the vegan option never looks as fancy or as like well thought through as the non-vegan option. If there is a vegan option, that is. But this was like hella good. Hella good. But we did the pairing wines. So we had a glass of champagne and then 5 different wines. I mean, only small glasses, but you have to drink it quite quickly because the courses are only small, and then it's a different wine with most. We don't have a different one with every course, but with most courses. And then afterwards, we were like, well, we're paying all this money for this meal. Well, we're not really, because like I said, we were using our Christmas money. But so we got a cocktail afterwards. So I had a Negroni, and my partner had like a whiskey kind of cocktail with some kind of like artichoke liqueur in it, which was really good. And then we decided to go for a pint afterwards. And then when we came home, we watched an episode of Happy Valley and I had a glass of red wine. And now I was going to film a little bit of B-roll now for you of like making a coffee and having like, you know, some cereal or some toast or something. But I'm going to level with you. My breakfast is, oh God, can't you do it? Oh, sideways. It's a pint of full fat Coke. There we go. A pint of full fat Coke and a tube of salt and vinegar Pringles. What can I say? I was really fancy yesterday, and now today I need to be really, really not fancy. But the good news is that I have no plans today, which means I'm going to be able to read this book. So I'm going to do that now and eat my Pringles and drink my Coke. Bye. Also, can I just say for the record, I'm probably not going to record my reading wrap up today because I'm not planning on looking more presentable than this. And I'm also not going to be making Argentinian food today because I have decided that the separate video project will be a separate video project, and I will do that after this big work thing next week and when I have more time in half term. So that is just me very much doing an about turn on what I said in the previous video. Whatever. So in and amongst having an accidental 2-hour nap in the middle of the day and a very lovely beach walk, which I may have already inserted footage of. If not, I will insert some here. We took Lewin to Seaton Sluice, which is our favourite local beach. Not our fatal local beach. But yeah, I have, in and amongst all of that, finished Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro. This book is sad. And not not sad in a like, because something terrible happens, though obviously, you know, her daughter dies at the start of it and she is suffering from a very difficult degenerative illness, and so it is sad, but it's sort of sad in ways that feel more profound than just what happens in the book. I think it was great. I think it was really, really great. It was a lot. It was really intense, and especially the last third of it felt... I was really glad to read the last kind of 50-page section in one sitting and not breaking it up. I actually wonder what this book would have been like if I hadn't had such a kind of stop and start reading experience of it. Because on the one hand, I think it was so impactful anyway, but like possibly might have been even more so if you were to sit and read it cover to cover. It's only 150 pages, so you know, it is not beyond the realms of possibility to read this in one sitting. But then on the other hand, I think I quite appreciated having some away time from it, because it's a very kind of relentless writing style that she has. I mean, it's also got a very interesting... I was thinking about this because there was a couple of moments in it where the narrative voice is a little unusual and jarring, because it's not told from the first person, although we do spend a lot of our time inside Elena's head, or Elena's head, probably Elena, right? Elena? I will use both with no consistency. So we are inside her head for a lot of it, but it's not a first person narrative, and just a few times things happen that are noted in the narration that Elena is not aware of or couldn't see. A lot of the times it's things that she couldn't see. As one of the symptoms of her Parkinson's is that her neck has been pretty permanently bent forward, so she spends a lot of time looking at the ground, and so isn't always able to see people's faces and things like that. But yeah, so when those moments happened and you kind of remember that their narrator is not Elena, there's this kind of like brief cognitive dissonance that happens, which I don't know if it was intended, and you can obviously argue about author intent till you're blue in the face, can't you? But it did feel like a really subtle way of... You get this experience, this feeling with Eleanor as she sort of battles against her body throughout the book, of whether inner life is not reflected in the outer body, and her body is increasingly failing her, and that is tragic and difficult. And there's a scene in it where, in the book, where they're talking about the sort of the difference between understanding something or knowing about something and the lived experience of it, and how, you know, prior to her Parkinson's diagnosis or prior to developing the disease, you could have told her all of the facts about how it would feel and what would happen to your body, but until you experience it, you don't ever really know what it's like. And yeah, I think that came through incredibly strongly throughout the book, and was part of a wider conversation that happens in the latter part of the book, which I won't talk about in too much detail because it's spoilery territory. But it becomes part of a wider discussion of bodies, particularly women's bodies, and whether and our autonomy over our bodies, and what happens when we don't have it. What happens to us physically, and what happens to us emotionally as well. And I just thought it was so well conceived, and I'm really sad that more of her books are not translated into English. In there's an afterword in here by Dr. Fiona McIntosh from Edinburgh University, and she's talking about how generally the books that Claudia Piñeiro writes or is known for that get translated into English are her crime fiction, her crime thrillers. But she does also write more books that are like this, that are more kind of character driven and engaging with social topics and political things than just the kind of straightforward crime fiction. And that actually it does her a disservice to be kind of just known as a crime writer. Not that there is anything wrong with being a crime writer, obviously, but it doesn't quite capture her whole thing, but her whole back catalogue. But it sounds like this is the only one that she's written that has been translated into English, which is such a shame, because I would definitely read more of her work, because this is published by Charco Press, and I think her crime fiction, is her translated crime fiction tends to be published by Bitter Lemon Press, so a completely different publishing outfit, and in fact has a different translator as well. So I'm really torn now. I was talking to my partner about it before, and he was like, are you gonna read some more of her books? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't read a lot of crime, and I don't know if I would find it a little bit disappointing after this, because I do think they're quite a bit like Ian M. Banks. I think she does write, it seems, and I am obviously not an expert, in kind of two specific veins, and I think this is the vein that I would enjoy more. So I can wholeheartedly recommend this, but it is not without its difficulties. And obviously if you or a loved one has a condition similar to Parkinson's, I would approach this book with caution, because what the illness does to the relationship between the mother and daughter especially is very difficult to read. It is not romanticized in the least, but I do think it was excellent. And so I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I've just got totally distracted by looking at the cover and trying. What is this? I just like a chair and a thing, but it's that. I'm very interested. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. I will be back with with plenty of videos probably in the intervening time, but this was the first in a series of reading vlogs where I'm specifically reading books from the Read Around the World reading challenge, which, if I'd thought about it, I could I could have listed the countries again, because I am on the hunt for some books. So if you have recommendations from them, I will put the countries in the Read the World challenge in the description box down below. So if you have read any books by authors from those countries or set in those countries that you would recommend, I would love to hear that. And if you are interested in picking this up as a result of me talking a little bit about it, then I would love to hear what you think of it when you finish it. And happy Saturday night. If you like this video, do like and subscribe, etc, etc, etc. But it genuinely does help. I am only new here, and liking and commenting and subscribing, etc. Makes my channel a little bit more visible for people who might not have come across it before. So there's that.